They say time heals everything. But what do you do when time only makes the ache deeper? When their name still echoes inside you like a prayer unanswered? You thought you lost them. But what if they were never yours to lose? What if their absence was never a punishment, but a lesson? Ibn Arabi taught that love never truly ends. It only changes form. The one who left didn't disappear. They became a mirror, showing you the part of yourself you refused to see. Because true love doesn't bind. It reveals. And sometimes, the deepest pain isn't meant to break you. It's meant to wake you up. You think you're holding on to them, their memory, their presence, the future you imagined together. But Ibn Arabi would ask you, are you holding on to them? Or are you holding on to who you were with them? He wrote, when you love someone, you don't just love their form. You love the version of yourself that emerges in their presence. With them, maybe you were lighter, more creative, more alive. And when they left, that version of you seemed to disappear too. So you grip tighter, thinking if you can just get them back, you'll get yourself back. But here's the truth Ibn Arabi revealed. That version of you didn't leave with them. It was always yours. They were just the mirror that showed it to you. And now they're gone so you can learn to see it without them. Modern psychology calls this identity entanglement, when your sense of self becomes so merged with another person that you forget where you end and they begin. Psychologist Esther Perel explains that we often mourn not just the person, but the life we imagined with them, the role we played, the identity we inhabited. But Ibn Arabi went deeper. He said this merging isn't wrong. It's part of love's purpose. Love shows you capacities within yourself you didn't know existed. The problem comes when you think those capacities belong to the relationship rather than to you. Ibn Arabi taught something radical about love. You never owned them. You never could. Every soul is a trust from God, and every meeting is temporary. This doesn't make love less sacred. It makes it more honest. When you say, I lost them, you're operating from an illusion. The illusion that they were ever yours to lose. They were always themselves, complete and whole, on their own journey. You walked together for a time, and now you don't. The Quran says, to Allah we belong and to Him we return. Ibn Arabi interpreted this to mean, nothing is permanent except God. Every person, every relationship, every form in this world is on loan. When it returns to its source, that's not theft, that's completion. The pain comes from believing you owned something you were only meant to experience. But here's where it gets interesting. If they weren't yours, if the relationship served its purpose, why can't you release them? Ibn Arabi said there are two types of attachment. The first is love. The second is nafs, the ego's hunger. Love releases. Nafs clings. Love says, I'm grateful you existed in my life. Nafs says, you weren't supposed to leave me. He wrote, when you cannot let go of someone, ask yourself, am I mourning the person, or am I mourning my idea of who I was supposed to become with them? Often what we're really grieving is the future we imagined, the story we told ourselves, the identity we were building. When they leave, that whole narrative collapses, and the ego hates that. The ego loves its stories. It will hold on to a painful story rather than face the unknown of no story at all. So why did this person enter your life? Ibn Arabi would say, to show you something you needed to see. Maybe they showed you your capacity to love deeply, to be vulnerable, to trust. Those are gifts they gave you, and those gifts remain even though they're gone. Or maybe they showed you your patterns, your fears, your wounds, the ways you abandon yourself trying to keep someone else. He taught, every person who touches your life is a messenger. Some bring you closer to yourself. Others show you what's keeping you from yourself. Both are equally sacred. This is why you can't let go. Not yet. Because you haven't received the message fully. You're still looking at them, trying to figure out what went wrong. But Ibn Arabi would redirect you. Stop looking at them. Look at what their presence and their absence revealed about you. Ibn Arabi didn't just teach philosophy, he taught practice. And his practice for letting go was profound in its simplicity. He said, every night before sleep, surrender them back to God. Here's how. Sit quietly. Place your hand on your heart and speak directly to your soul. This person was never mine. They were a gift, a teacher, a mirror. I release them from the story I created. I release myself from the version of me that only existed with them. I give them back to the source from which we all came. And I trust that if we are meant to meet again, in this life or beyond, God will orchestrate it. Until then, I am free. And so are they. Don't just say the words. Feel them. Let your heart actually release its grip. Ibn Arabi promised, if you do this practice with sincerity for 40 nights, the energetic cord between you will dissolve. Not because you stop caring, but because you stop needing. Here's what people get wrong. They think letting go means forgetting, moving on, pretending it never mattered. Ibn Arabi taught the opposite. He said, to let go is to love them enough to free them from your need, and to love yourself enough to stop abandoning your own life for a past that's gone. Letting go doesn't erase what was. It honors it by not letting it become a prison. You can keep the lessons, keep the growth, keep the love even. What you release is the demand that it should have been different, the belief that you're incomplete without them, the fantasy that keeps you from being present in your actual life. Ibn Arabi taught that when you finally release someone, you make space for something else to arrive. Not necessarily another person. Sometimes what arrives is yourself, the self you've been abandoning while obsessing over them. He wrote, the soul you've been searching for in another has been waiting inside you all along. But you couldn't hear it because you were too busy listening for their footsteps returning. What if the reason they had to leave was so you could finally meet yourself, not the self you were with them, the self you are without anyone? Modern psychology supports this. Studies on post-breakup growth show that people who use the end of a relationship as a catalyst for self-discovery often emerge stronger, clearer, more aligned with their authentic selves than they were before. But this only happens when you stop waiting, when you stop checking if they've moved on, when you stop rehearsing what you'd say if they came back. Here's what Ibn Arabi understood that most people miss. Every ending contains a beginning, but you can't see the beginning while you're still staring at the ending. The Persian poet Rumi, who walked a similar path, said it perfectly. The wound is the place where the light enters you. Your heartbreak isn't just pain, it's an opening, a crack in the armor you built around yourself. And through that crack, if you let it, divine light can pour in. Ibn Arabi called this spiritual alchemy, the transformation of pain into wisdom, of attachment into freedom, of romantic love into divine love. He said, "When human love disappoints you, it's preparing you for a love that cannot disappoint, the love of God, which never leaves, never changes, never fails." This doesn't diminish what you felt, it elevates it. Your capacity to love deeply, to hurt deeply, to feel deeply. This is sacred. It's just that it was never meant to stop with one person. It was meant to expand until it includes everything. So how do you know when you've truly let go? Ibn Arabi gave a simple test. You've released them when you can speak their name without your chest tightening, when you can wish them well without wondering if they wish you the same, when you can see their happiness, even with someone else, and feel genuine peace. This doesn't happen overnight. This is a practice, a daily choice, a slow untangling of your identity from theirs. But one day, you'll notice. You went a whole day without thinking of them, then a week. Then you'll realize you've stopped checking their social media, stopped drafting texts you'll never send, stopped replaying conversations that are long over. And in that space, something new will grow. Maybe it's a new relationship. Maybe it's a new version of you. Maybe it's just peace, the deep, quiet peace of being whole within yourself. Ibn Arabi's final teaching on this was the most beautiful. Every person who leaves creates space for God to enter. They were never your destination. They were your guide, pointing you toward yourself, toward truth, toward the divine. The person you need to let go of isn't out there somewhere, living their life without you. The person you need to release is the one inside you, the ghost version you created, the one who is going to complete you, save you, make you whole. That person never existed, but someone else does. Someone who's been waiting patiently for you to stop searching outside and finally come home to yourself. Let them go. Not because you don't love them, but because you love yourself enough to stop living in a story that's already ended. And when you finally release your grip, you'll discover what Ibn Arabi promised. Your hands weren't empty. They were full. You were just holding on to the wrong thing. Now you're free to hold what's real. And what's real is you. Whole. Complete. Exactly as you are.